Joining us now is Mr. Harinder Singh Pelia. He's a founder of 10XR Club and Talent Labs and writer of The Magic Pill, where he shares his personal experience with the Ozempic drug. He's a well-recognized expert in AI, marketing, and education with deep expertise in building communities and upskilling marketers through cutting-edge technology. Thank you very much, Mr. Singh, for joining us. Welcome to NewsX World.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Now, diving right into our discussion, how can AI personalize learning for individual students?
See, we are finally ending the era of teaching to the middle. I think there's no average student today. There's only this particular student right here, right now. And I think AI enables us to meet them exactly where they are. See, you can think of it like a difference between a mass-produced uniform and a bespoke suit, except that now the bespoke suit, it costs the same as a Netflix subscription. So no more assembly line in education. We can now start treating education like a conversation with the student.
Interesting. And can AI help teachers identify students' strengths and weaknesses faster?
See, report cards in our generation and even generations before that were always like autopsies. They told you what went wrong, especially when it was too late. I think now AI has come in like a diagnostic tool in a very live way, which lets us kind of save the patient while they're still in the room. See, teachers have a kind of an intuition, but I think AI brings a lot of structure to that. It's when you put both of them together, the teacher and the AI, is when we can ensure that no kid falls through the cracks. Not one report card at the end of the year, but just asking the simple question, how can we help this student on a random Tuesday?
That's interesting. And how is student data protected when using AI in classrooms?
See, in 2026, we are in a situation that if we don't protect the data, then generally we don't deserve the student. See, privacy is not a feature anymore. It is just a ticket to entry. We have to treat student data as well as we treat their physical safety. It's non-negotiable, it has to be locked down, and it has to be constantly monitored. See, that's why privacy is not a great to have. It is basic surveillance that is a prerequisite for any kind of progress in education.
Yes, thank you for highlighting that, Mr. Singh. And what are the biggest challenges in integrating AI into schools now?
See, the technology is out there, but the issue is always the bureaucracy, right? Like in this is in most economies. The challenge isn't exactly in the code; it's actually the culture, the way we think about things. The software is never the problem, the tool is never the problem, but it's always that sentence which we've been hearing a lot, that we've always done it this way. That's the root of the problem. The root of the problem is fear. Is the challenge that a machine might be able to do the job better. And we've had cycles of this throughout time. So instead of the excitement that this could help teachers do their job slightly better, there is a fear, and I think that becomes the biggest challenge.
Are there any schools that are actually integrating these kind of systems right now?
There are a bunch of schools, and we are seeing, especially at the top end of the pyramid, especially the ones which are slightly high ticket, slightly socioeconomically forward. I think they are able to do it. But where we need to see a larger part of the action is slightly down the pyramid, where AI needs to be, in education specifically, accessible as well as affordable for all, especially those with slightly more limited funding.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Singh, for highlighting that once again. And are AI tools realistically accessible and affordable for all schools, especially those with limited funding?
See, while I think the overall digital divide is closing, but the AI divide, I think that is opening up. And I think, and large corporations are actually at fault at this, where they're not exactly helping build those bridges. We don't need more paywalls exactly. If you think that AI is not expensive at a consumer level, it is. Just think of the cost of sending like yet another irrelevant graduate in the workforce in 2030 and so on and so forth, right? You have a bigger problem on your hands socioeconomically, and this is for all economies. I don't think the question is for the lower or the limited funding schools to ask the question whether we can afford AI, but they should ask the question that we can't afford not to. The most expensive thing today in education is just being obsolete today.
Right. So how can those schools, actually collect the funding, and how can they convince the parents who might be very scared or skeptical about integrating it, and also exposing their kids to such high-level AI data?
See, we had the same similar kind of a problem when computers came into the space of education, say in the mid 90s or the late 90s, right? Where parents had the similar problems, and even schools used to think that how can we afford X number of computers for Y number of students. See, that's where the priorities need to be set. That this might be a short term investment, but it is a long term investment in the entire educational infrastructure of the institute. So, of course, at that point in time, we had large organizations kind of bringing in funding and grants and subsidies, etc. Right? Microsoft did a lot of fantastic work on this. A
Yes.
lot of state and national governments did a lot of fantastic stuff on this. So the same playbook which brought in computers into education 25, 30 years ago needs to be adopted for AI to come into education today.
Right. Is assuming that you're in India and I am in India, is Indian government doing that, helping underfunded schools, or these schools kind of integrate, and because like you mentioned earlier and you highlighted rightfully that they cannot afford to sleep on this technology.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of good stuff which is already done, especially in the tier one cities. But once we go outside the main cities and the metros, that's where a lot leaves to be desired. Like I said earlier, I think the government and the state governments have taken the first step. Large corporations need to come in, right, with their CSR
Yes.
funding and everything else, so that they can make sure that this trickles down to tier four and five cities as well. Like I said, the question is not whether you can afford AI. The statement is like the writing is on the wall. You cannot afford not to have it.
Thank you once again for highlighting that. And Mr. Singh, lastly, with your experience in marketing and building communities like the 10XR Club, how can AI be used to upskill future marketers in an educational setting?
See, in a marketing context, we've realized that 10x results don't come from just working 10x harder. They come from just genuine leverage. See, today we don't need to teach students to be copywriters or to be that. They need to be able to understand, use these tools, and become kind of generals of their own so-called AI armies, where tools are kind of soldiers for them in a way. See, a junior marketer today spends about 40 hours a week on just grunt work, and grunt work which can be very easily made as extinct. Either they will make it extinct, or somebody will do it, excuse me, or somebody will do it for them. See, we
Right.
are upskilling students to skip the grunt work and go straight to strategy, go straight to creative. And that's what's important. We need to use the power of AI to teach marketers how to answer questions, not how to just get into the throes of busy work again. And I think what we've been able to double click on is that the future belongs to the curious, not exactly to the busy.
That is so important. Thank you for sharing that. And what ethical concerns arise when using AI in education once again?
See, of course, the most obvious ethical point is plagiarism, right? Which we see across the board. I think that's one big way in which the number of tools that you might have as an education institute. I know a lot of institute uses Turnitin and a lot of other tools to make sure that reports and papers and term papers are not completely plagiarized by the students. But the issue is that students are always very creative, right? They will always be one step ahead of the curve, and they'll make sure that they outsmart any of the tools that you will put in to prevent the unethical use of AI within the educational sphere. So the larger question becomes that while we are training AI muscles, are we need to make sure that we are not atrophying muscles that actually enable clear and independent and creative thinking, and that's what's important. So the need for more physical assessment, which means assessment on pens and papers without any digital devices, to complement what they are doing through the help of AI. I think both need to be used in the proper balance to ensure that while there is ethical use, there is also an exercising of the person's mental faculties in a very deep way.
Wow, that is so enlightening. Thank you for sharing that once again. And what is the potential of AI to foster collaboration between students in virtual environment?
Students in
Virtual environment.
virtual environment. See, of course, the first thing is from a reach, access, and distribution perspective. It's very important for us to understand that today, a person who is kind of deeply integrating AI into their educational experience is able to stand on the shoulder of giants, which means that they're able to access the research as well as the thinking and the collaboration of people at any corner of the globe, basically, right? So researchers in India researching on a particular science project could be collaborating with somebody sitting in China or somebody sitting in the US or so on and so forth, right? Where there's a lot of seamless exchange of idea, because all of this learning goes inside the AI tool to train it, so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel so much. So and to eliminate the busy work in research, so that they're able to cooperate and collaborate with each other in a virtual environment and ensure that they're only taking knowledge ahead and they're not reinventing the wheel when somebody else in some other corner of the globe has already arrived at the answer which they were originally looking to answer.
Right. And lastly, do you see there's a gap between developing countries and developed countries in in AI, integrating AI into education?
I think unfortunately there is a very big gap. The issue is not only reach, access, and distribution. The issue is funding. The issue is also intent, right? We need to understand that while for somebody in a developed country they may have a structured infrastructure to be able to apply uh, AI in education, not out of their own accord, but when the institute, the school or the college or the university that they're a part of, they facilitate it. But for some people, especially in developing countries, they might have to fight that battle alone with very little institutional support, right? So that gap between developed and developing countries needs it just seems to be getting bigger and bigger as we go along. That's where, like I said earlier, the state and the provincial governments need to come in a very big way to ensure that all of these benefits don't remain a metro and tier one phenomena in any of the cities across the world, right? This has
Yes.
to trickle down to the to last mile, to the person in a village with very little access, so that they can also get all the benefits of AI that the person in the large cities
Yes.
have.
Thank you for sharing that insight, Mr. Harinder Singh Pilia. With that, I would like to thank Mr. Harinder Singh Pilia for joining us on this episode of Trending Tech and sharing that insight with us. With that, it's a wrap on this episode of the Trending Tech. For more updates and innovations, stay tuned to NewsX World.